Hello and welcome to a Monday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show, Meldon Law Monday. I am Buddy Martin. Thus, the show is called the Buddy Martin Show. We're here with you 4 nights a week, and Monday nights means it's Shane Matthews' night. Also sitting in, and will be our good friend and regular contributor, Chris Doering, back from SEC Media Days. We'll talk about that and much more to come right here on the program today. So you stay tuned. We'll go get Shane. We'll come back and we'll see if we can get this program started. A bunch to talk about. I know Shane's got a lot of golf to talk about. My people didn't do any good at all. Wonder how his did. So stand by. Coming your way right now on the Buddy Martin Show.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Program. I'm Matthews is standing by in the green room, which is now the orange blue room. We'll go get him right now. And gosh, you can start off a day and things can go good and things can go bad. And like they say, sometimes you have to pick what mood you want to be in. And sometimes it's difficult because you have different situations and different things going on in your life. Been a good day for Gator fans. It's been a good week. Some good news about recruiting. Also a coach coming back who had left. For myself, good evening to you, Shane Matthews. And I just got back from a real project. You would have loved it. I went out to get my wife's name changed. Okay? We had the marriage license. We were going to the Social Security office. So we went by and got an extra copy of the marriage license. Looked at it, went over to the Social Security office, sat for 2 or 3 hours and waited, and got to the window and they said, your name is wrong on this marriage license. What? Your last name is first. Well, I didn't type it. Well, I can't take it like this. So go back over to the courthouse. Took another hour. Go to the lady, and a very nice lady who said, yep, it's wrong. I said, I didn't fill it out. Somebody else here did. She said, well, I'm sorry, but that'll be $30 because you have to have an amendment. Okay. Like plus another hour. Plus now I've completely blown the opportunity to go back over and get the name changed because now it's like a 4-hour deal. But not going to let it bring me down, Shane, because, we're getting closer to football season. You get aggravated at things like that, and next thing you know, you're in a rabbit hole. And speaking of rabbit holes, my son Brendan called me Thursday. You know that big problem they had with CrowdStrike, that software problem that grounded all the airlines? Mm-hmm. Well, he was stuck in Dallas. He couldn't get out. Mm. Some of the most ridiculous things I ever heard about airfares, whatever. So it just goes to show you, Shane, we're all subject to problems when it comes to software, right?
No question. I'm glad I don't really have too many issues with that. And when I do, I have somebody to fix it quickly.
You got people, I know.
Yeah, I don't. All I know how to do is turn the computer on. That's pretty much it.
Well, you're doing pretty good at that. How many years is this you've had this show? 5?
Whenever COVID started, it was a couple of weeks before COVID hit.
2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you started it. Pot up with Matthews. Well, it's done very well. Congratulations on your success. Now, I know you don't follow recruiting that close, but even you would know the news about Vernell Brown, 5-star player, son of a famous Gator, well known his dad, and really kind of rounds out that nice and jumps Florida up to quite a few notches. Even I know that, and I don't know much about it. So expected to get him, yes. But now that class is shaping up nicely. And Vernell is such a terrific kid in every way. What do you know about him?
I know that he grew up here in Gainesville, and then I guess as a 9th and 10th grader, he moved down and played for his uncle, Vernell's brother, in Wildwood. And then last year he moved to Orlando and plays for Eli Williams. And he'll play for Eli Williams again at Jones there in Orlando this year. Yeah, he's a lot bigger than Vernell, his dad, much taller. Obviously a really good player. Anytime Ohio State wants a wide receiver, you got to think they're pretty good. So it's a huge get for Billy Napier and the rest of the staff. And, buddy, it was funny today on my program. I think we probably had between texts and Facebook and YouTube comments, maybe 3 comments on it. And I basically was joking around. If we had not gotten him, all hell would have broken loose on the show. But people, it's crazy to me. I try to tell people, you gotta just, there's not anything you can do about Florida football, Florida baseball. There's not a lot of things you can't control. But they want to talk about negative stuff nonstop. And there was some negative stuff on my show today talking about how it's almost like our coaches aren't even trying to recruit, which cracked me up.
What? I don't get that at all.
Well, because we're ranked so low or whatever. But like I said, I could care less. It was a good get for them, and hopefully we'll win some games and get some more players.
Shane, I know you didn't watch too much of SEC Media Days. I watched most of it. And it gets a little tough after the third day once Florida's come and gone. But I'm going to get Chris Doering to share his thoughts with us on his takeaways. He was there for all of it. And what he gets is a whole lot of information, massive amounts of information. It's hard to digest it all, to know what's what. You got to come away and say, what do I remember, what person, what coach, whatever. There's nothing, you can't even win or lose any games in there. But I think there's certain people like Coach Spurrier had a way of making it his time, talking season, who made an impression. So I thought Kirby was pretty good when he did. I'm not going to try to evaluate every coach. But I have a few takeaways from it too, and this thing is so massive. We don't even know how this whole new all 16, this 12-team playoff is going to change college football. Shane, I think there'll be a lot of difference. What do you think?
Well, I think the SEC is going to be phenomenal this year. When you bring in anybody like Oklahoma and Texas, obviously those are tremendous brands, and they're going to help your conference be bigger and stronger. And we got the best commissioner in all the sports, and Greg Sankey. You got the best, the most competitive with the best athletes, best fan bases, best traditions. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a fun year. I think you're going to get 3, 4, maybe 5 SEC teams in the mix.
Yeah.
But I am very, very much looking forward to the season.
I'm with you on that. And I think we've been so bogged down in NIL and this stuff and that stuff that when they, as Billy says, put the ball down, we started having some.
Yeah. And, I read on my show a comment from Billy, and I just brought it up here. And to me, this is a tremendous quote that he had. And it doesn't just pertain to the Gators, in my opinion, regardless of your fan base. It was talking about the 2024 schedule, obviously. And Billy quoted, I think some of the teams that we play aren't the same teams that they had last year. And we certainly aren't the same team that we had last year.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's going to be problems. Like on my takeaways, I wrote down a few notes. I said, some people are kind of making it a pat hand, Georgia and Texas. And while I agree they're the 2 teams that should win it, I think there's so much different about this right now the schedule changes. The think players are going to go down. Late season games are going to go the other way. That you can't say for there's probably a lot of back doors to this thing. You know, you can think of teams like Ole Miss or Missouri or whatever that might come in the back door on it. You know, so you can't say it's this bad hand. A lot of things could happen. More teams have a chance, Shane, to not only get in, but to be noticed and also to get into the championship final 12. I mean, it'd be huge to have a team like Missouri get in there, you know, whatever. And the record, the schedule is very favorable for them. I don't think they're a good team, but almost you don't necessarily have to be that good a team.
Well, Missouri went 10-2 last year. I think I saw where they won 6 or 7 games that were 4 or 5 points or less.
The close games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's to have the kind of year you got to win the close games and have the ball bounce your way. But I'm a firm believer if Florida goes 8-4, Missouri goes 10-2. I think Florida gets in before they do because of the schedule, strength of schedule. You got to look back now. This is like the NCAA basketball tournament where they're going to put up the blind resumes, depending on who the team has played, who they've beaten, things of that nature. But Missouri's they have a great opportunity. I'm not sure about Tennessee's schedule. I haven't really looked at all the schedules closely. I think the 2 premier teams in the SEC this year are Georgia and Texas, and I've said it multiple times. Mm-hmm. When I look at our schedule, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's as hard as the average fan or the national media makes it out to be, because I think a lot of those teams are different than they were last year. And I think we're going to be different, just like the quote I said. But I think Georgia and Texas are the cream of the crop in the SEC this year, and they will be tough to beat.
I agree. Can't wait to see who else pops up there. While I'm waiting, we're going to get Chris Story in a moment here. I got some golf I want to talk to you about, but let me first tell you about our friends at Meldon Law. They got a lot going on right there, doing some great church work with Ronald McDonald, if you saw that, and trying to help wipe out hunger. So check that out. I'll tell you more about it later. Meldon Law, you know them. They don't back down, and they want you to know that if you're looking for any help in terms of the legal department, if you have another attorney that you're not satisfied with what you're getting and you want a second opinion, you can get it for no charge. Call Meldon Law and go down and see one of the Meldons and see what they've got to offer. They have a lot. And they, of course, are big, huge Gator fans. They have giveaways. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. All right, Shane, let's hold the golf off for a second here. A lot of questions to ask you about Billy Horschel. And also, you have a question on the screen there from Low Bottom Sports. Can you read it?
Put Florida's talent to the side. Can Billy win games? Yeah, I think he can. I don't think I think he's a good football coach. A lot of people don't. And I understand they want to look at a couple of the game management issues, which I totally agree with. But I put all that stuff in the past. People got to quit worrying about what happened last year.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. This is seems like this team's a different team. He's got more experience. He's got more snaps. He's got some pretty good-looking running backs and some pretty good-looking wide receivers. So we'll see. Dan Bond says Florida's wide receiver room is loaded. Tell me what you think of Billy Gonzalez.
Well, I think Billy's a good coach. He's coached a lot of good players, and I like the receivers they have this year. We just need to let them go play. Got to catch balls, make plays.
You think Billy Gonzalez will ever? You think Billy? I'm sorry. You think that their wide receivers will have some breakout players? And who do you like the most? Obviously.
I mean, I'm a big fan of. I love the 3 freshmen we had last year. Now, obviously, Trey Wilson was the only one that really played a lot, and Eugene was hurt a lot. Aiden Mizell, he can run, man, and I'd like to see them both play along with Trey Wilson. Throw in some of those other kids, but we got the transfers that came in, but from that crew from last year, I'd like to see those two kids get a lot of action.
Let's see what this guy thinks. He's back from SEC Media Days where he had the hula hoops. Shane, can you spin a basketball on one finger?
Yeah.
Shane's a baller now. Don't let Shane fool you, man. Shane was a great basketball player in high school. Great basketball player with the Swampers. We used to have some fun.
Could he light it up?
Oh yeah.
He's a great basketball player. Is the guy who coached you guys in football. He lit it up for 44 in the 8th grade. Coach Spurrier, he
was a ball hog, I heard.
Oh, without question. And, he had an offer from Tennessee to play basketball. Ray Mears offered him a scholarship to play basketball. But he said no. Well, let's get a little inside information from the guy who was at the SEC Media Days. Did you get tired, Chris?
Yeah, man. I tell you, it's long days. I think I was doing about 7 hours a day between television and radio, and the 4:50 a.m. wake up call was kind of rough there for the.
Hey, dude, what's that thing with the little video you did of waking up and having them filming you with the eye things on? That was so girly, I couldn't believe it.
Come on, buddy. You're not up with all the social media, like get ready with me's and a day in the life of. I mean, those are really popular right now. But that was a directive from my SiriusXM bosses.
Yeah.
So
did you see it, Shane? Did you catch it, Shane?
I did not, but I was Doering getting up at 4:58, it's rough on him when he comes home at 2:58.
Hey, Shane, you'd be proud, or you wouldn't be proud, maybe. I don't know, man. I was very disciplined. We didn't go out one single night. The latest I was up was when my flight from Gainesville to Dallas got delayed like 6 hours. So I finally got in.
Wow.
Got to bed about 1:30.
That's all 6. Some guys had 6 days.
Yeah. No, luckily I didn't have any real issues. I flew back Thursday night instead. If I'd have flown back Friday, I'd have been screwed. But had a good week. Went to the All-Star game out there, which was kind of cool. Yeah. And watch some. The thing that I took away from the media days this year was just how football-centric everything was. There wasn't a whole lot of off-the-field stories. I mean, in the offseason, we've been talking so much about the future of college football and the congressional ruling and everything. And I think everybody was just excited to get back to talking about football. So it was fun in that respect. And I think, the thing that I noticed, was just the overall how well OU and Texas fit in immediately, with the brands and the history and the leaders. The coaches are both really strong leaders. And I'm really excited to see how this season plays out with those two teams being stuck in the 12-team playoff expansion.
I noticed some of the guys that Shane, you shouldn't see it. I'm sure you didn't, but some of the guys doing the side banter on SEC Network later on, Cole Kubelik and the Dusty Dvorak, they had a little heated discussion about, and you came on later the next day, about these who has the best rivalry, and it was Dvorak like hands down the Red River rivalry, whatever, and then Cole Kubelik got his back up and said, wait a minute, don't forget what was his Iron Bowl? The Iron Bowl's mine, right? And it got a little heated there. And I said, okay, now we're starting to see a few cracks in this whole thing. Commissioner Sankey can't hold it together completely. You came back the next day and said, hey, how about Florida, Georgia, right?
Yeah, I had Florida, Georgia right behind the Iron Bowl. I mean, Shane would have a good perspective on the Egg Bowl. I had the Egg Bowl third. My point about Texas and Oklahoma was that, Oklahoma's not even Texas's main rival. I mean, they're so excited to play Texas A&M. That game seems like it's going to mean more than the Red River rivalry does. So I would have that fourth behind those other three.
How about you, Shane? How would you rank them?
Ooh, I think all 4 of them are pretty special. I've been to the OU Texas game. I think the problem that game has, that game and Florida, Georgia are the only 2 non-home and home series. Although I think Arkansas plays A&M now in Dallas or something. But the difference is they always play that game at 11 o'clock. in the morning.
It's being changed though.
I know, and I think that's
2:30.
going to make a difference because it's awesome because it's right there at the state fair and stuff. But there's not as much hate in that game. The one time I went, and that was probably 10 years ago. There's a lot of hatred in the Florida Georgia game, especially among the fans. I didn't feel that when I was there. But man, the Iron Bowl is awesome. The Egg Bowl has a lot of hate now. There's probably more hate in that game than any of them.
I think the Egg Bowl's really big within the state of Mississippi, and I'd agree from what I've heard that the hate is real there. But I don't think it resonates outside the state as much as the Iron Bowl does or what Cocktail Party does.
When you're ranking a national rivalry or a rivalry or nationally, it's kind of hard to confine it to one state, isn't it? I mean, Florida State's been pretty good too, but I mean, still, I don't know. It depends upon the year, the era, what's going on at the time. It depends upon how good one team is than the other, how many times one team has beat the other team. I mean, Texas, Oklahoma has not been all that competitive.
But yeah, that's the thing that stood out to me was being at media days. All the talk was about Texas, and I think everybody's looking at Texas as a legitimate SEC championship game contender, as a college football playoff contender. But this is a team that's been they've lost 8 of the last 10 to Oklahoma, and we're not even talking about Oklahoma. All the appearances in the playoffs that Oklahoma's had, it really doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think we're basing it largely on the one game last year when Texas went to Tuscaloosa and manhandled the Tide at home, something that never happens. But I think Shane would probably agree with me. I don't think that either team is ready for the cumulative effect of the grind of playing in the SEC week in and week out, not only physically, but the mental drain that it takes on you. Texas, they won a lot of really close games last year in the Big 12. And I don't think you do that same thing in the SEC. You don't have that same margin for error that you do in the Big 12.
I mean, let's be honest. It has to be how it impacts the national scene too, doesn't it? I mean, that's the thing about, but you guys played, and when Spurrier was coaching against Bobby Bowden, that game was always, top 5. And you start talking about teams have a great rivalry, but it's not that often that the Egg Bowl has that impact on the national scene. You know what I'm saying? So, and Texas, Oklahoma hasn't had that. I don't know. Let me ask you guys while I got you. I know you got to go, Chris, pretty quick, but what are the elements of a great rivalry?
Well,
I think, when I was growing up, Georgia was our biggest rival, and it was the biggest rival on our schedule because we had a hard time beating them. Once we started beating the hell out of Georgia, there's a whole generation of Gator fans that didn't look at Georgia as a game as important as Tennessee or Florida State or even LSU. But, I think once you start losing some games, once there's a little balance in the rivalry or it shifts the other direction, it becomes much more important. So I think a true rivalry has to have some back and forth. And I know the Florida-Georgia rivalry has been one of a lot of streaks where one team or the other has dominated each decade. But I really think that a true rivalry has to have some balance, and it has to mean something. I love where the game falls on the schedule in the last weekend of October there around Halloween, where, it really sets the tone for the stretch run. In a lot of cases, when I was younger, Florida losing to Georgia was basically the game that eliminated them from having any real contention in the SEC title race.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know, the border rivalries are great, I think, because of the proximity of the fans. A lot of players get recruited by the same schools. When you got a game that makes difference in the national rankings, which now, of course, is going to be more so with the playoff. There's a lot of things that go into a great rivalry. I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, for that reason, you got to put way up there, because it's always had impacted the national scene very much so. But
I'm fascinated by the Miami rivalry. This is a both my parents are from Miami. We used to go down to the Orange Bowl to watch the Florida Miami game down there to start the season every other year. Obviously, would watch it here in Gainesville when the Canes would come to town. But there's still a lot of older Miami and Florida fans that have great disdain for one another. I love that we have a real true state championship this year, even throwing UCF into the rotation with us. But for a while there in the 90s, the state of Florida was the epicenter of college football world, and having Florida State, Miami, and Florida all in the top 5, even though that was kind of resigned to within the state of Florida, it meant a lot throughout the country. And so I'm really excited about that rivalry being renewed. I know Shane probably feels the same way I do. That was one of my big regrets and pieces of sadness about my career is I never had a chance to play Miami with as much as that game meant to my family and to me growing up as a kid.
I don't share that. My late wife was from North Miami as well. I had a lot of friends from Florida that were from Miami. But in my opinion, the Miami rivalry just didn't measure up after a while. And I'm a little surprised that people are putting such emphasis on the opening game. I get that it's important. I get it's like two programs that are going sideways, and they need to get it back on track. And I understand that. But I don't get that Miami game. I'm hearing people say it's the most important. But Shane, you said
I said it too. I'm with Shane.
Most important any opening game since I've been here. I thought, man,
Yeah.
I don't get that. I guess I'm in the minority, Shane.
It's clearly the most important opener that I can remember ever since I became a Gator in '88. Just due to the losing seasons, you got to get off on a good start. I mean, I firmly believe, I'm optimistic. I don't care about the schedule. Some of these teams that we're going to play are not what they were last year. We're the different team. You got to go play it. And you got to win that game at home. Cam Ward has never played in an environment in his life and never will play in an environment in his life like he will on August 31st. And we got to make it difficult on him. I have not bought into the Miami hype. Maybe I'm crazy, but they've been a very average football team. And if Florida had played their schedule the last couple of years, we would not have losing seasons. So, but we got to win the game, buddy. I think we got to start the year at least 4-0. I don't know who our 5th game. I don't know if Tennessee's the 5th or 6th game, but I think we have to be, in my opinion, we have to be undefeated going to Tennessee.
Well, yeah.
I'm with Shane. I agree with him on everything he said there. The schedule is set up that you got to make hay early in the season. I think just from a confidence factor too, winning those games early on can help kind of reinforce what these guys are believing. I love kind of where Florida's line in the cut right now. Not many people. I mean, Florida was an afterthought. They were probably the 3rd or maybe even 4th most important team on the day that they went to Dallas for media days. You go through a number of schedules. Nobody mentions Florida as being a tough game. It's really weird to think about the reality of where the program is and the way that we're perceived in everybody else's eyes. But I would agree that it's the biggest game, not only because of what's on the line, how much pressure ratchets up on the losing coach there, but just the dynamic within the state. Florida State has kind of taken over after struggling. We were all three kind of struggling. To be the 3rd team in that trio of teams within the state is not good, and we're already not having a great time putting together the 2025 class. So I just think from the perception as it relates to recruits too, it would mean a lot to have that environment rocking and to have it be a game that goes Florida's way.
All right, Shane, let me get a couple of final thoughts from Chris on this before he leaves, and you can pitch in if you want, but I know you didn't follow as closely. What's your biggest takeaway from SEC Media Days, Chris?
Yeah, outside of Oklahoma and Texas, I think there's been a large concern amongst fans about the disenchantment with today's college football player and the worry about how NIL and transfer portal stuff's going to make college football less popular. Being there, the anticipation for this season, whether it's Oklahoma and Texas's addition, whether it's the expansion to 12 teams in the playoffs, I don't know that there's ever a season that has felt more anticipated within the SEC than this one. So that's what stood out to me. I think quarterbacks are the storyline this year. The depth of talent and experience that we have at the quarterback position in this conference is one of the greatest that I've ever seen. And I think, the SEC is probably going to get 4 teams into the 12-team playoff field. I think there's 9 teams that are vying for those 4 spots, and those are the kind of things that I walked away feeling like after being in Dallas all week last week.
Who was the one person that impressed you the most you met for the first time?
I'm really impressed with Brent Venables. Sark is awesome. I love sitting down with Steve Sarkisian, but Brent Venables has this intensity, has this kind of command of the room, and walking out as soon as he was done, man, I was ready to run through a wall, and I wasn't even one of his players. So, yeah, I think that's both Sark and Brent Venables really fit in well with the group of alpha coaches in this league. Those two dudes are right in line with the rest of them.
Shane, have you seen Kalen DeBoer?
Have I seen him?
Heard him talk?
Yeah, I've heard him talk. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him. I didn't get to see a whole lot of SEC Media Day. The only portion that I got to see was Doring's portion early in the morning, and he had the 2 Alabama. He had Milroe and the offensive lineman had the big chain.
Yeah.
I was blown away at how well those kids were, how well spoken they were.
They are, yeah.
I would say that's the overall feel that I had from just about everybody that was there. Obviously, they choose guys that are not only great players, but good representatives in front of the camera and with the media. Ole Miss's group was really, really good. Auburn's was really good. I just, I think you mentioned pressure, Shane. These kids deal with a ton of it. And, I think we kind of went through some of our pressure rankings. I think Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, this is one of the most pressure-packed seasons for them after what they've done in 2 of the last 3 years, winning 10-plus games. I think there's a ton of pressure on Kirby Smart, too, and that sounds kind of weird to say, but, like, even though you've won 2 national championships, you've been on the cusp of playing for a couple other ones, and the real barricade in front of you has been Nick Saban. Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa. If they lose to Kalen DeBoer, Nick Saban's replacement, I think there's a lot of pressure that kind of ratchets up on Georgia. Now, obviously, all that pressure is created by Kirby Smart winning the titles that he has. But, this is a league with a lot of expectation. Texas is under a lot. I think Texas is the most shot-for team in the league this year when they come in. I don't know if you guys heard Coach Saban's sound on television. He said hey, nobody's coming in here and dominating the league, and I think that's
I like that. He said, forget about it. Texas is not going to dominate the SEC.
Yeah.
I love doing these stuff. Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate
you guys.
Take care. All right. Let's go grab Franz Beard. I want to be sure and tell friends of mine about who sponsors this show. Of course, we have had Meldon on. Our friends at Titan MRI, I want you to know they're doing everything they can to help you have a good experience when you go to get an MRI. I know that's hard to believe, but it's possible. Number one, the convenience is a big thing. If you have problems getting an MRI, getting time off from your job, they'll tailor make an appointment for you right there in Gainesville, and you can go on nights or weekends and get around that situation. If you have no insurance and you have to find another way to pay for it, you can pay with cash or card. They also try to have you have a better experience getting into the cubicle when you do that MRI thing, so you won't get feel so tight they drawn to it. They have different cameras, and they also want you not to be claustrophobic. Try to make it a customer service experience that you will be appreciated. TitanMRI.com. Go check them out. Evening to Franz Beard. Franz, hello, the QB. He's just rounding up his time here. And before we go to anything else, Shane, let's talk about Billy Horschel.
Yeah, Billy had an opportunity, man. He played good golf. Just ran into a buzzsaw. I've been hot picking overseas golf tournaments. I picked the winner, Bobby McIntyre, Scottish Open, and I picked Xander to win this week.
Wow, yeah,
so,
he was amazing.
And it was fun to watch. And Billy's had a great career. That might be the only opportunity that he gets. You just never know in professional golf.
Time for second. And by the way, I loved how he brought it back because he was starting. He really was fading there about when the back half is the second 9, and he brought it back and just kept competing. What Schauffele did too. My gosh, he didn't make a bogey forever. Schauffele was so good at what he did. and he was just steady at it the whole time and just wouldn't go away. So Billy Horschel was a big day for him, a nice finish for him. Like you said, though, Shane, he may never get another shot at a major.
Yeah, it's hard to do it. There's so many good players that play professionally. You just never know. But, gosh, tip your hat to the X-Man. I mean, he was not a very good college golfer. If you go back and look at his career, he'll tell you he's fortunate to be on the PGA Tour, but he's gotten better and better. And, boy, he's a player for sure.
Yeah. All right, so before we go, and let's get Franz in here, do we still feel the same way about the two best teams in the SEC after the SEC Media Days, Texas and Georgia? Franz, you go first.
Well, I think Texas has a schedule that is conducive to being the best team in the SEC. I think Georgia has not beaten a top 10 team on the road since 2018. They got to play at Alabama. They have to play at Texas, and they have to play at Ole Miss. And, I could see them losing 1, 2, or 3. Could they win them all? Of course they could. But could they also lose them all? Yes, they could. It's going to be very, very tough. I think an Ole Miss game, circle that one, because that one could be, Ole Miss could be really on a roll at that point in time. And Georgia, with 2 losses, could have 2 losses already and really be scrambling, because they play, I believe they play Ole Miss the week after they play Tennessee. So that could be a really, really big and important game. And by the way, mentioning something Shane said earlier, Miami has the pansiest schedule in the entire country. They play 2 decent teams. One of them is Florida and the other one is Florida State. Everybody else is a homeless shelter or a convent all-star team.
They don't play Clemson or NC State this year?
No.
Wow.
Let me read you this magnificent schedule. Florida, FAMU, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech at home, at California, at Louisville, which is going to be okay, but not good. Florida State, Duke, which is at home, Duke's not going to be very good this year. Georgia Tech on the road, Wake Forest, Gump, and Syracuse.
Wow.
That's their schedule. That's 10-2. If this guy can coach a lick, that's 10-2.
Interesting.
Let me read you Texas. They got a couple of big games, but otherwise, listen to this schedule. They open up with Colorado State. They play at Michigan. That's one of their big games. They play USTA Roadrunners. They play Louisiana Monroe Warhawks, Mississippi State Bulldogs, and all those teams until they finally get to the Red River Rivalry, Oklahoma, Texas, and Dallas. Then they got Georgia, and that's everything. Then they switch over to Vanderbilt. They got Florida. They got Kentucky. They got Texas A&M. So it's not exactly what you call the hardest schedule in the history of college football, which, by the way, is what they call Florida's. So,
the football people, the people who make the schedules, they must have been given an oil well or two. The Texas boosters must have said, "Hey, give us a pansy schedule this year. We'll throw you in an oil well," or something like that.
All right, Shane, I'll talk to you in the morning. Who you got on your show?
I got Buddy, and I got Ron Coleman, first ever black athlete to attend the University of Florida.
Oh, yeah. He's got
tremendous long jumper.
Quite a story to tell. All right, QE, good job. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, fellas. Y'all take care.
Talk to you tomorrow morning. All right, Shane Matthews on Pod Up with Matthews and my buddy Franz Beard. We're rocking along here on a Monday night, as we have so many times. Franz, I got to tell you, excellent column you wrote on Vernell Brown. I want to get to you and talk about that a little bit. I know you knew Vernell, the face of Florida football. Explain a little about that. Let's talk about what this young player means, how he's developing now, how he pushes as far as recruiting class way up.
Well, first let me talk about about the family. I mean, you know, I forgot one guy. I forgot that he's got another uncle, Vincent, that played, but Vernell Sr., John L., Val, Vincent, Vernell Jr., and this is the sixth from that same family to play for the Gators. Pretty darn good legacy, wouldn't you say? And I think, you know, he had a tough decision because, you know, you look at the way Ohio State has put receivers in the NFL, but Florida had two things going for him. One was Billy Gonzalez. I think Billy Gonzalez is as good a teacher of route running, etc., as there is in college football. And I think that was a real plus. I think if Florida hadn't had Billy Gonzalez, I don't know if family could have pulled him through. But he's got an older sister named Kendall who also runs track and jumps for Mouse Holloway. All these, you know, dad, grandfather, and uncles. I just think it was really, really hard. I think it was not hard, but easy in a difficult way to say yes to the Gators. And here's what he does. He brings an element of, you talk about yards after catch. You throw Trey Wilson and this kid in there, give them the ball, put the ball in their hands, and magical things can happen. He is he's a better athlete than any of his uncles and his grandfather. He really is. And they were all good. I'm not taking anything away from any of them. They were all really good. But this kid's a 5-star. He's really, really special. And he's going to be special from day one. He's got the smarts, he's got the work ethic, he's got the ability. And I think he's got a touch of his dad's leadership ability. And when you want to talk about why Vernell Jr. was the face of Florida football.
Well, tell the story about Terraport again. And you told it many times before.
Well, Florida, you know, the week before, Vernell had broken his leg against Vanderbilt. But he was such an integral part of that team, and his leadership was so special that he's on that trip to South Carolina where the Gators lost. Steve Spurrier's first year there at South Carolina, and the Gators lose up there in Columbia. What about, you know, a big ball game for Steve Spurrier. You got to admit that was a huge ball game for Steve Spurrier, and it could have been like one of these games that cost Urban Meyer. It could have set him back a couple of years.
Yeah.
So anyway, they come back, and he'd had problems. If you remember, we were there in Baton Rouge, and Urban, you know, Mike Freeman of the Times-Union at the time, what a rotten column, calling him Urban Crier. Urban Meyer was in tears at LSU because he has a guy, Dallas Baker, playing with a punctured lung and a high ankle sprain, and you can't get the guy out of there because he wants to play that bad. And he's got guys that, you know, the play of the game, LSU's quarterback makes this huge throw downfield, and all our DB has to do is raise his hands like that, and it knocks it down, and he doesn't even jump. Ball's caught. LSU wins the game 19-17. Urban is in tears after that, and he knew he did not have his entire team. They were not a real team at the time. Half of them were still with him, and there were some in betweens, and then he had a bunch that just they were determined. They liked things the way they were under the previous regime. They come back from that loss, and they're on the tarmac, and the plane lands, and before they can get off the plane, up there in his crutches, flanked by Jarvis Herring, Jeremy Mincy, is Come to Jesus night. And they gave the three of them, but particularly Vernell, the don't let the screen door hit you in the butt on the way out. That was the speech. Some of them didn't come back, as you know. They have a week off, open date, and the team truly unifies. They get FSU coming up on the following Saturday. And this game, as you know, buddy, this game is so special to me because my mom at that point in time is she's had 4 real close encounters with death. We don't know that she's going to make it. And on Thanksgiving morning, Urban and Shelley Meyer call my mom. She's in ORMC. We don't even know she's going to make it to the next day. They call, and not only did they just call to say happy birthday to her, they talked for 30 minutes. I mean, and it was so encouraging. My mom was lifted up by that call. She lived. Obviously, she's still alive today.
Yeah.
They asked her at the end, they say, at the end of the call, Urban says, well, it's your birthday. What do you think? What do you want for your birthday? What can I do for you for your birthday? And my mom says, well, you could beat FSU. I really don't like them. And Urban says, we'll do the best we can. And of course, that set the stage. Saturday is senior day. Okay, at the Swamp. FSU's here in town. FSU's already clinched the ACC division title. They're going to play and win the ACC the next week. So this is a big game for them. To beat Florida, they've already beaten Miami. To beat Florida is huge. I mean, it's really, really huge. So Todd McCullough comes out, and we damn near had a riot on because the FSU people, players and fans and everything like this, just absolutely low class as it gets going after Todd McCullough. Well, things calmed down. Last kid out, Vernell Brown, on his crutches. He's hobbling to the 20-yard line. Bear hug from Urban Meyer. The crowd, you could have heard the crowd to Stark and down to Micanopy. I promise you, it was that loud. You were sitting right beside me in the press box looking at me and said, and you mount, and I know what you said because I couldn't hear you because it was so loud. It was, can you believe this? And I went, Vernell. So that's the first part of it. But here's the second part of it. Vernell is on the sidelines. They're playing Avery Atkins, a freshman, a true freshman. He's going against Greg Carr, who's averaging 20 yards a catch, 6'6" kid out of North Marion, huge kid with tremendous speed. And we've got a true freshman locked up with him one-on-one. Vernell knows Greg Carr like the back of his hand. Vernell is coaching up Avery, on the sidelines the whole game. Greg Carr made one catch. It was for 45 yards. But if the safety doesn't bite on the play, there's over-the-top help. There should have been over-the-top help. Would have been incomplete. But just the same, one insignificant catch. Florida wins the game 34-7. Here's the significance of that. After the game, in the locker room, and this is a game where Tebow's there, Brandon Spikes is there, Brandon James is there, Riley Cooper is there. It's a who's who for recruits. Marcus Gilbert is there. I mean, my goodness, it is who's who for recruits are in the house that game. The recruits are all in the locker room after the game, and Avery Atkins gets up with tears in his eyes, just pouring down, boo-hooing, talking about how his big brother, Vernell Brown, meant everything to him, how he could not have made it through that day.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I wanted to say why Urban Meyer said Vernell is the face of Florida football. And that's why, leading up to your column, which I think your first couple of paragraphs were wonderful, I'm going to share, if that's okay, what you wrote. You wrote, blood, it turns out, still means something when it comes to the Brown family in Gainesville. Wide receiver Vernell Brown, 5'11", 173, Orlando Jones, isn't just your typical legacy recruit. There aren't many whose Florida football fans roots run deeper. His dad, Vernell Jr., grandfather Vernell Sr., uncles Val and Jonell, I think you said there's one more, were all Gators. As the Browns before for VB3 were fine football players, but this one is very special, very, very special. And Orlando Jones, a year ago, Vernell Brown III was electric, hauling him 70 passes for 1,404 yards and 12 touchdowns. He scored another 4 touchdowns as he wound up more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He's so good that some recruiting analysts claim there isn't a better receiver in the country once he has the football in his hands. And when it comes time to make the call where he's going to be playing college football, Billy Napier and the Gators won out, but not without Ohio State, Florida State, and Miami doing their best to convince him otherwise. So a huge get for Billy.
Oh, this one, this is kind of like getting DJ Lagway last year. This is the kind of recruit that turns heads, that other guys want to go play with. He's a 5-star, just like DJ was a 5-star. DJ, when the Gators when DJ not only committed to the Gators, but then holds his commitment and is recruiting for the Gators. Vernell III, VB3 will be recruiting for the Gators too.
Yeah.
This is going, and this, you look at how this wide receiver room is setting up. You got.
Let me get to you on a couple other things. Pardon me for interrupting you. What long is it before we get off the air? What does this mean here with Mason Laredo from Gulf Coast, left-hander Gators? How big is that for the Gator baseball team?
Huge. A guy that can throw strikes, can get a strikeout when he needs one. Ball moves a lot. They lost Kevin Ross. Kevin Ross was the Southern Conference Player of the Year, drafted in the 19th round, but I believe it was the Mariners. They had saved so much of their money for a late round pick. They got him. So you lose that starter, but you pick this guy up and you throw him with Billy Barlow, who the Gators got out of Clemson. And I guarantee you, they've got the pitching for next year. Jake Clemente, by the way, is an all-star up in the Cape Cod League. And you know how I like Jake Clemente. I think he's a guy that has tremendous potential. You take Jake Clemente and Peterson together, Pierce Coppola, throw him in there, Billy Barlow, and now this guy. They've got the pitching for next year.
All right. I'm going to bounce around on a couple things real quick, running out of time. Montrell Johnson picked to wear number 1 because he's the best player. Big deal?
Very big deal, and worthy of the number 1. He's been number 2, wearing number 2 since he's been at Florida. Going to wear number 1, a very, very big deal.
This is a bit of a surprise. Florida lost a coach and got him back. And that makes a big difference in terms of recruiting. Talk about that.
That's one I missed out on, and I get to tell you why. I was down in getting pre-op at my doctor down in Orlando. I got to have some surgery in a couple weeks.
Okay. Hope you're going to be all right there. Well, anyway, so the news broke this afternoon that Joe Hamilton, and I don't follow recruiting, who is a elite recruiting staffer, had gone to Texas A&M. He left for them early this year. Well, apparently he's come back to Florida.
Yeah.
Everybody's raving about how big that is. I don't know Joe Hamilton. I know he's supposed to be a good recruiter. What can you tell us about Joe Hamilton?
He's a guy that they think he is one of these guys that really sets the table for the head coach to come in and close. You got to, it's kind of like, you got to think of it kind of like in baseball terms, that you got to have a setup guy. Then you bring in your Sparky Lyle or your Aroldis Chapman or Mariano Rivera to get the final 3 outs. This is the guy. This is the setup guy. Okay. And he sets up Billy Napier perfectly. Great setup guy. And you got to have guys like that. Not every great recruiter, buddy, is the guy that closes. A lot of great recruiters Billy Gonzalez is not thought to be a great recruiter in the living rooms, but you get kids here on campus and he really sets it up well because he can show the guys on the field what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and so forth like that. Not every great recruiter does well in somebody's living room.
Yeah.
And this is a great setup guy.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I wanted to say, I know you joined me in congratulating Freddie Wiebe and Steve Spurrier coming up on the 10th of this, the 12th of next month. It celebrates 3 years of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Unbelievable. They are now the #1 celebrity restaurant in America. They've done such a terrific job.
And Freddie has done such a terrific job that he's got people from all over the country coming to him saying, hey, can you replicate what you've done with Coach Spurrier where we are? Mm-hmm. And
so one of them is Don Staley in Columbia, South Carolina. They're talking about opening one up there together.
There's going to be this Nick somebody, whatever, up in Tuscaloosa. They say he was pretty famous and pretty good in his day.
Freddie asked me if we would be sure to mention Florida Victorious teaming up with Chomp Out Hunger. They have a Florida themed limited edition boxes of fresh vegetables from Florida Victorious partner Front Door Produce, available for purchase by fans between July 22nd and 12th. The boxes can be purchased for individual use or donated to benefit the Bread of Mighty Food Bank. Now, Franz, I know you do some work there in Gainesville and people like that. You know about this. These
Bread of the Mighty is unbelievable. Yeah. Absolutely unbelievable. And what's so amazing is how many Florida athletes volunteer their time there. This is a group that just so many people get fed on a weekly basis. I work out of the Upper Room Church on Northeast 15th. Dear friends, the Sheltons and the Andersons up there are just dear friends, and they've had a food giveaway going for 15 years there. And Bread of the Mighty is the one that brings the food. Bread of the Mighty and Publix always coming to the rescue with these people.
Their boxes will be distributed on August 15th at Celebration Point, delivered to the Bread of Mighty by half of your name organization. So fans across Gator Nation can participate in this great cause. Proceeds go directly to the University of Florida student athletes. And the guy, Nate Barbera, Chief Executive Officer, says, we're thrilled to offer this opportunity to our fans to support our UF student athletes, the Bread of the Mighty Bank, while also enjoying some fresh summer vegetables. So get behind them. Go out there. The boxes will be available. Pick up on Thursday, August 15th, at Celebration Point between 2 and 9 if you want to take part. So it's a good cause. All right, Francis, I'll let you get out of here and go do your writing and keep doing the good stuff you're writing. And I hope you're going to be okay with your medical thing there.
Oh, I'm going to be. It's essential, but not threatening. Okay. It's just.
I'll say what my wife's grandson said in North Carolina when we were sitting at the table out in a wildlife area, and Dawn leaned back and started going back and went all the way over back. Hit her head and fell down and back, and we got her up to, oh my gosh, she could have broken her back there, She got up and she was fine. And Jake, her grandson, said, Nana, you're tougher than a $2 steak.
Well, you know what they say, buddy? They say that minor surgery, this is Dan Jenkins, great Dan Jenkins line. Minor surgery is when it happens to somebody else.
Right. Minor surgery on me and major surgery on you. That's for sure.
You got it. Anyway, we're last few days. You got to remember something. This week, we're in the last few days. This week is really the last free week these guys are going to have because starting Sunday, these guys are going to start getting ready for the August camp to open up. Yeah. And I'm going to throw this out at you folks. don't sleep on the Gators. Don't think that this is going to be the same old, same old. It's a better football team than anybody wants to give them credit for, which is why guys like Feinbaum keep saying, I don't know why I've been putting the Gators down, and they don't look like a losing team to me.
Let's hope he's right about that. And by the way, while you're at it, folks, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. Join up. You can read Franz Beard regularly. He's there every day. And come join us every night right here on the Buddy Martin Show. We're here Monday through Friday. Tomorrow night, we'll have another good group of friends. Have a good night. Appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
Appreciate you, buddy. And I'm so glad you named it the Buddy Martin Show instead of the Two Old Farts from Gainesville Show.
Well, we can do that too. See you, Franz.
Take care.
All right, Franz Beard. All right, folks, let's see. I want to be sure and tell you now about let's get Franz so we go to sleep. Wrap up this night. My wife's here. I think she's telling me it's time to go to bed. Just want to tell you about our good friends over at that have been sponsoring this program for a long, long time. And I can't say enough about Renstar Medical Research. They do a terrific job for us. They do a terrific job in the community of Ocala. I've known them for a long time. The people over there are special. Mary Brantley, who's married to Scott, and her friend, the high school pal, they opened the business, Joe Sorrentino. And this is one of the premier medical companies like this in the country that operates right there in Ocala. They take part in, they put on these clinical research things that if you don't know about them, you should, because they play a big part in your health. They offer you the opportunity to come and take part in some of these things. They have a variety of them. If you take part, you might be compensated, will be compensated for a pick, for time and travel, and get some inside information on things you wouldn't get ordinarily. So go to Renstar.net and figure out which one of those you want to join, apply, and take part in it. You'll be helping yourself and helping the community. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks to our guest tonight, Shane Matthews. Don't forget, I'll be joining Shane tomorrow morning on Pot Up with Matthews, Chris Story, and Franz Beard. I want you folks to have a good night, and hope to be back here tomorrow night. Well, I'm going to be back with you tomorrow night. We'll have our usual crew, although David Whitley now he's on vacation. He'll be gone, but we'll be here. Come join us, and let's do this again right here. Good night.